Welcome, my friends, fellow human beings. It's a bit of an assumption, isn't it? I don't know if you're human or not. But welcome to the SitRep for today, which is the 14th of Jan. Did I write that? Or did I write 13th on? Anyway, doesn't matter. It's the 14th of January, which means yesterday was Friday the 13th. This is the SitRep where I go through stories from the past couple of days, have a look at it from the perspective of preparedness-minded human beings like yourselves are going to watch this and go, now we know what we need to think about. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, I appreciate it. Morning to you, Alpha, on YouTube. And let's jump into it, shall we? Good morning to you, Savage the Wild. Although I'm acutely aware that it is not morning for either of those two people that I just said. Morning, Reagan, on YouTube. Not sure what the time is, but probably afternoon. Thank you, Coronavirus. Appreciate it. All right, let's jump into it. The first thing that I saw that was very interesting was the grounded domestic flights in the US. 4,000 flights were delayed. Planes were grounded en masse. Lots of delays going on there. Obviously, we're experiencing a lot of delays with flights anyway. So, this is probably not new, but to this scale, this is the biggest delay of flights, like the cancelling of flights that we've seen since 9/11 in 2001. So September the 11th, 2001, obviously there was a bit of a thing that happened. And yeah, then they cancelled all the flights. What's happened there? Well, there was a smattering of reasons. A whole bunch of reasons came out. The big one, the one that I was tracking most, was this cyber attack. They started talking about this cyber attack, which then became some sort of cyber contagion, I guess, because it started affecting a whole heap of other people, other airports and other places. So yeah, we had US shut down as far as their flights go for a small period of time. They started saying there was a corrupt file that got out there and started stopping things. Then that was followed up about 12 hours later by Canada also coming out and suffering the same mysterious air system outages. Corrupt file was blamed by the FAA. Interesting. Side note as well, the UK post office system unable to send letters in the same period and parcels overseas due to a cyber incident. So, interesting. A lot of cyber stuff being thrown out there. What's going on there? I was shocked that we hadn't heard the word North Korea or Iran in that. I'll get to Iran though, don't worry. They're getting blamed for more things, but not this, or at least not that I saw. Pretty big story though, pretty big information. And again, this is something you need to sort of think about if you're a person who travels around a lot. I think this is what we're heading towards in the future: is more restrictions in our ability as individuals to travel around as freely as we have over the past couple of decades. Watch that space, definitely. Just catch up on a few comments here. Peter Rouse says the official story is BS. Their stakeholders says it all. Interesting. I'd like to hear more about that. Sigilla W on Instagram says hiya, and Coronavirus says you'll be a great dad. Thank you very much. I'm going to try my darndest, my hardest to be a good father, because I think that's what the world needs right now, amongst other things. But that's what I can do. That's what I can offer, at least, is being a good dad. Here's something that's close to home. Australian borrowers headed for a series of interest rate hikes as inflation rises again. This was interesting because, this came up on ABC News by their business reporter, just saying that interest rates are going to continue going up. Well, that's where the trend's going anyway. Why is this news? And to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of like, what makes you say this? Or is it just a fluff piece? Are you just going out there to scare more human beings, more Aussies, that they're not going to be afford to pay their houses off? I just found this one a really interesting one because, yes, we can see that trend already, and that's a possibility. But if you look at where Feds are sitting right now, and the Australian Reserve Bank being one of them, um, they're in between a rock and a hard place right now. Increasing on a very basic level here, okay? So I'm not going to delve into economics because to be perfectly honest, like my understanding, my grasp of it isn't that fantastic. But if you need to curb inflation, basically one of the mechanisms that they have is to increase interest rates. So, okay, yeah, we've got inflation. Them signaling we're going to increasing interest rates, because they have been doing that, backs up that there is inflation. If inflation is going to continue, they're going to continue increasing interest rates. That's a bit of a sort of situation. However, there are other consequences of increasing inflation rates, and one of them is potentially mixed in with creating a recession or exacerbating recession conditions, increasing unemployment, and slowing down the economy. That's something they definitely do not want to do. So unless they've got some other mechanism to do that, because that's happening as well. So what we're actually heading towards, you might have heard this term stagflation. That's when you've got persistent inflation and stagnation within the actual economy. And that's the scenario that we're heading into, which can be a lot worse than just inflation by itself. In fact, it could be a lot worse than a depression in reality if you couple this in with a potential crash that we might have. Anyway, I just thought this was interesting that the ABC is coming out with this, and they're saying, hey, interest rates are going to go up. For starters, if you're an Aussie home owner right now and you don't think that that's going to happen, then just check yourself. Like, I don't know what rock you're hiding under, but I get a letter from my bank every other week telling me that interest rates have gone up. If you're an Aussie and you think inflation isn't going to go up too, then I think you're still hiding under a rock. I don't think we're in a good situation. And news like this, I don't think is very helpful at the end of the day for people. It's a bit confusing. So I want to kind of throw this one out just to show to people, like, this stuff that's coming out of mainstream media right now can be utterly confusing. And it's quite often mixed signals that we're going to get from these economic experts. I'd love to know how they know with some level of assurity that this is going to happen. Anyway, moving on. Let's move over to the UK right now, because I told you I'd have an Iran story. Here it is. Dirty bomb fears as uranium is found in cargo at Heathrow. Package shipped from Pakistan to UK-based Iranians. Yes, the evil Iranians are at it again. They're at the center of a Met Police anti-terror probe after being found when it triggered airport alarm. So they found some sort of radioactive material, uranium, apparently. They're putting two and two together here, the police, the anti-terrorist police, and going, this was going to be a dirty bomb. They were trying to make a dirty bomb and set it off, I guess, in and around UK somewhere. Okay. If you've been following me for a couple of weeks now, you would know that I find every story that has the word Iran in it interesting for different reasons. Maybe Iran is really behind all this stuff. Maybe they are the mastermind of all this evil and are putting this out. But I just find it very interesting that mainstream media, just so you know, I'm looking at this story on the Daily Mail, the Daily Mail. Australian version, but dailymail.co.uk. So it's a UK publication. It's a very much a mainstream media, and they continue to put out this anti-Iranian sentiment. If you know anything about war, what you need to do for war, you need to get people on board for it. You need to get your population on board. You need to get your soldiers on board, and you need to paint an enemy. People, normal functioning human beings, really do not want to get into a fight of any sort. They especially don't want to get into a fight where their life is threatened and they're going to have to take the life of another. And I'm talking from personal experience here, that I've done this, that I've been to said war and had to do some of this stuff and have had this kind of propaganda utilized on myself. So I know exactly what it's about. You need to paint an enemy, and it needs to be such an enemy, it needs to be such a threat that it's imminent, that they're going to kill you, your family, your children, your dogs, your cats, all of them. They're going to annihilate them with a dirty bomb. Never mind the fact that they don't particularly go into what a dirty bomb actually is. Now, you'll hear this term bandied around quite a bit because people are so worried about these dirty bombs. Dirty bomb, nuclear, boom, it goes off, it wipes out, kills hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people maybe if it's set off in London. That's not actually what a dirty bomb is by definition. Dirty bomb is a conventional explosive device that has some sort of radioactive material on it, which causes an emulation of fallout. Well, it causes a fallout, but it's not a fallout from a nuclear explosion. It's a fallout from the explosion dispersing that radioactive material. And if you actually read into what a dirty bomb can do and what it can't do, yes, it is dangerous. Yes, it is effective, but it's not like a nuclear bomb, not in any way, shape, or form, except for that fallout. But that fallout is much smaller and it has a much, much lower half-life than what we would see from a nuclear explosion, meaning that it would be, you would irradiate an area, but not in the same way that you would irradiate an area when you used a nuclear explosion. It would be temporary. It would not last forever. And potentially, depending on the size and the makeup of it, would be a lot easier to clean up. So again, a lot of fear porn coming out from mainstream media here, and a lot of like anti-Iranian sentiment. And I'm certainly not pro-Iranian, but like I'm not anti-Iranian either. I'm not, generally I try and stay anti or neutral to any country of people. A country is made up of human beings like you and I. Not every Iranian is sitting there like making bombs in their basements while they've got photos of like Biden and, you know, an Aussie or something they're throwing knives at. That's not realistic. Most of them are just trying to make a buck and feed their family and love their family and looking after themselves. So just try and remember that when you're reading this sort of stuff. What else we got going on here? I'll stay in the UK at the moment here because this is nothing to do with bombs, but it is to do with health. And I have talked about health a lot in the past. Now, I am a qualified sports and exercise scientist, and I think my belief is that your own personal well-being and health is one of the most important things that you can focus on in your life. And I have noted, as many people have, that during the last great plague that we had in our world, plague in the last 3 years, there was very little, in fact, there was no government advertising about the individual getting healthy, the individual eating well, the individual looking after their health, the individual exercising. None of that. I could almost say, okay, well, that's ignorance. That's, I would leave malevolence out of it. But now I'm starting to go, well, I feel like they are starting to attack people being healthy, especially when I see stuff like this. Energy bills obviously going through the roof in the UK and in Europe at the moment. They're having a crisis of energy. They are in a crisis of energy. So what are you going to shut down? Leisure centres at risk without further support for energy bills, UK government warned. So swimming pools, leisure centres and gyms are at risk of closure unless the UK government offers more support, because they're already supporting them. So they're putting some money towards them and they're about to go. They're asking for more because prices are continuing to go up. And the government's saying, I'm not going to give you more. In fact, we might actually have to take it off you now, which would mean potentially that entire fitness industry could just die. Me personally, I have worked in the fitness industry in the past. I think it's a bit of wank, really. It's kind of cool because it's an access point for people to get into fitness. But my belief is that fitness should be one of those things that you get into yourself, that you do yourself. And no person needs a gym or a swimming pool or anything like that. You have gravity, you have your own human body, you can work out. And like that's in any form. Like, I don't care who you are. If you've only got 5 minutes a day, you can still do 5 minutes a day. It's better than 0 minutes a day. So you don't need these sort of things, but anything that makes this sort of stuff easier is always good, because this, at the end of the day, increases a population's health. So the fact that the government is scaling back these schemes is a bit of a concern, because I look at this and I go, this feels like it is an attack on fitness, on individuals' ability to be healthy. But, you could say that's what the government wants you totally dependent on it. What else we got here? I'm just going to skip through a few things today because I don't have a lot of time this morning, to be honest. Japan, very, very busy again. We've got Japan, US just shook hands and did some big deals, including a NATO-like agreement, an Article 5 NATO-like agreement that the US came out and said, and I want to, I'm remembering this one because I didn't snap a photo of it, but I want to try and get this right because it was very interesting. If Japan is attacked, we will respond in kind as if we were attacked, including nuclear weapons. That was the key phrase when I saw that quote this morning. I was like, including nuclear weapons. So it's a very strong signal to Russia, to Northern Korea, and to China from the US this morning, including Japan. But Japan's also been doing discussions with the UK, obviously with Australia, and who else they've been in bed with? India. But Japan's extremely busy right now. They are stepping on. They've put their big boy pants on, and they are stepping into this Cold War, I guess what it is now. WEF is meeting, World Economic Forum's meeting. They've just asked for 5,000 plus soldiers from Switzerland to guard those rich elites. They've also allegedly, this is just total rumor, by the way, haven't found any concrete evidence on this, but have allegedly asked for pilots who have not been for the Great Flu. Interesting. Why? Why are the rich elite asking for that? But anyway, I don't want to talk about WF. What I want to talk about is grocery stores in New York. So there's been a number of reports from New York City that their crime rate is going through the roof when it comes to grocery products. So grocery stores, supermarkets, that sort of stuff are getting attacked. Apparently the call for help has not been answered enough by the policing system there. So grocery stores are looking at locking up their food. Not all their food, but most of it, not a lot of it. Increasing food prices. I would guess eggs might get locked up in the US at the moment because they're going through the roof at the moment. But disturbing signals. Anytime I'm seeing something like this about the food system, I'm always worried about that. Always worried about that. Peter Rouse says, Brazilian government did talk about getting healthy, maybe why they had to get rid of him. Yeah, there were a number of governments. I think Peru, no, maybe Chile. I watched an ad from Chile during the pandemic that was basically just, hey, yo, Chileans, you need to get out there. You need to move. Here's some examples. Contact this website. We will give you, little workout regimes. Here's how you eat healthy, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at that and I was like, why is not every country doing that right now? Where's that signaling from Australia? Just wasn't there. So I did say that I saw very, very little of it, but certainly saw zero of it from any Western country. And Peter Rouse also correctly says the forgotten prep, the home gym, getting prepared and build out your home gym. And I've certainly been doing that. I've had minimal sort of stuff. And throughout the last 3-4 years, I've really built up quite a cool little home gym here now. Something that I definitely recommend to people. In fact, every time I buy it, I say this to people. People are like, are you buying another piece of equipment? I said, this is an investment. This is 100% an investment. If it gets utilized, then it's an investment for me and my family. Okay, this was a little blast that came out, staying on food sort of stuff, that came out from Grey Man Briefing, which is a channel that I recommend people check out. I'm not sure if they're on YouTube, but they're definitely on Telegram. So look up Grey Man Briefing. They're on Instagram as well. Supply chain brief, projected food shortages. So just a quick one: beef, eggs, lettuce, canned dog food, OJ are expected grocery shortages on 2023. So they've kind of had a look around what some of the cause effect sort of stuff that's happening in the food supply chains at the moment. Beef, champagne, lettuce, eggs, canned food, drinks, vegetables, soda, beer, dog food, fruits, spam, chicken, noodle, soup. Oh no, sunflower palm oil, wheat products. All these I wouldn't eat anyway. Baked goods, loaf bread, whole wheat tortillas. Still, I'm not eating any of that. Corn products, corn flour, chips, cereals. I'm gonna eat some corn chips. Orange juice, I don't really have. Barley, also don't really have. But if you do have those sort of things, they are looking at being disrupted over the next couple of months within the US. All right, here's the big one for me. Guinness. Guinness hikes beer prices in Ireland, risking financial hardship for many. I love this. A beer manufacturer says, "Hey, we're gonna increase the price of a pint," and the government pushes back, or a lot of people actually pushed back about this. There was a number of sources that came out, but people pushed back and said, "You're going to cause financial hardship by increasing beer." That should tell you something about the amount of beer that the average Irish person, or Guinness that the average Irish person is drinking. But the interesting part of this was that they pushed back against it. Now, I will note this. Guinness is not its own company. It's been bought out by a company. I think I've got the name here for it, which is London-based, maybe? Yeah. Diageo. Diageo? Diageo? Diageo. I don't know how you pronounce it. So they've increased their price. They said, "Look, we've got to increase the price of Guinness. Where it's going up X amount of cents per pint." There was such a pushback that they actually had to renege on it and backpedal. So they're backpedaling on it. I'm all for people having to increase prices, and I get that. I understand that. Here is a company that I just want to. They reported a profit of $3.34 billion during the last financial year. So this is a good example of, yes, I see companies who, that companies need to make money and they need to increase profits and they need growth for shareholders and blah, 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 share prices, all that kind of crap. I get that. I'm not in principle against people raising prices of stuff, but when you're pulling in a huge amount of profit, it obviously does not look good when you're trying to then get more money out of the individual. The only issue I think Guinness or Diageo have here is that they're late to the game. All the other bigger companies, when inflation first hit, they were straight on it. They were like, "Yep, we're increasing prices. And quite rightly so, people were pointing out like, "Hey, Shell, didn't you make record profit this year? Like, why are you still increasing prices of your fuel? Has it gone up that much?" And they're like, "Don't worry about it. Like, here's a bit of money for you. Forget about it. Write what we want you to write." Guinness is just late to the game here, or Diageo is just late to the game here. And so everyone's like sick of it. And they're like, "Right, anyone else does this? Right, you, not my beer. I'll take the fuel. I'll take the bread. I'll take the chicken eggs. I will not tolerate this on beer." I'm a big fan of Guinness myself. Love it. Love the dark stuff. So at the end of the day, I'll pay more for it, but I don't want to, that's for sure. Coronavirus says, "Don't fuck around with people's beer and football." Exactly. Peter Rouse says they are saying there will be beer shortages in New Zealand because of CO2 shortages. Damn, you might have to drink your Spates flat. Steinlager. Okay, so I reported on this gas one from the US, where there were reports that they were going to try and ban gas stoves in the US, so people couldn't cook on gas stoves, saying it was linked to cancer and some other palaver. Anyway, they've backpedaled. I found this so funny. The US Consumer Product Safety Commission deny the gas stove ban. So they've come out and they said, we're not going to ban gas stoves. So I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, maybe you guys didn't say that." I went back to the original story. Yeah, they did. They didn't say they were going to ban it. They were saying like, "We are thinking about seriously moving towards banning gas stoves for this reason." Then everyone got into an uproar like, "You can't ban gas stoves." And they said, "Oh, no, we never said that." And I was like, the irony of the gas stove issue and you gaslighting everyone like this. And people will believe this too. They're like, "Oh, no, they didn't say that because they said they didn't say that." literally 24 hours apart. I can pull up the same story and I can see the quote here from them, and I can see the quote here from them. And I'm going, here you said you were going to, now you said you never said that. This is gaslighting. I just found it funny because it was about gas stoves. Anyway, that's my dad joke for the day. Enjoy it. No, I'm not going to talk about that. What else we got going here? Sweden pushes nuclear power regulation for more electricity production. I view that as sanity again. There's more reports about that. So looks like Sweden's going to push more into, there's a number of countries throughout Europe who are starting to cotton on. They're way behind the 8 ball on this. Should have been doing this years ago. Then when the writing was on the wall that there's going to be an energy crunch and crisis within Europe, that's when they should have been like going full steam into nuclear. Instead, mainly the countries were going full steam away from nuclear. Now they're backpedaling. So Germany just did it the other day. Now Sweden's doing it as well. I see that as, a smart, but also only like you don't have many options at this point. What else we got? Sorry, I've got a whole heap of stories about the jibby jab sort of thing, but I don't really feel like talking about it today, to be honest. These last couple of ones came in this morning from my main source on Instagram. Geopolitical sort of stuff, and it's about Russia. Just some interesting movements that's been happening of late that we've seen. At least the main Russian naval port, or one of the main Russian naval bases, Novorossiysk. My Russian is not so good, comrade. I don't know how to pronounce it, but anyway, it just emptied out overnight, essentially. So obviously these sort of places are getting tracked by satellite quite a bit by other countries. And then they're like, whoa, hang on, those ships are on the move. What happened to those subs? There was 3 subs sitting there. Now there's no subs sitting there. So that's put the hairs on the back of the neck up on a lot of people, kind of a bit worried about it. NATO, I think, in response to this, will probably start pushing more into the Black Sea. In fact, it says here, NATO are likely wanting to keep a closer eye on the Black Sea. This is from just OSINT, open source intelligence that you can get access to. A couple of days ago, the Russian port emptied of almost all ships, including 3 subs. Also began signal jamming. So who knows what's going on here? We've seen a number of things in the past 24, 48 hours, including China start to move some pretty serious sorties and build up forces along the eastern coast next to Taiwan. What is actually happening there? Are they starting to look at an invasion into Taiwan? Well, we don't know, because they've been doing it for a long time. I've talked about this in the past, that it's classic art of war style. Just keep pestering the enemy, and what they're doing is fakies. So they're sort of sitting there doing feints to Taiwan every day, flying a sortie over, and then one day they'll just go bam and hit. And everyone will be like, oh yeah, they're flying another sortie of 36 planes over. Oh yeah, they've got some ships in the water. So, oh, hang on, the invasion's on. So I think we're seeing this sort of stuff, these maneuvers now, where they're signaling that they're going to do it, but they're also faking. And I will give you a little example of this, of my experience of it, that when I was in Afghanistan, spent weeks out on patrol, and every day, multiple times a day, we were listening in to the chatter from the enemy over there. And they would say things like, yep, hit him now. And we'd all get ready on the first day, freaking out. Nothing had happened. And then we'd be driving along, they'd be like, yep, hit the IED now. And we'd be like, whoa, IED? No, nothing there. Every day, for days, for weeks. And then all of a sudden, after a few weeks, you stop caring about it. We'd get it over the radio, hey, we just had chatter from the Taliban, they're going to hit us. We'd be like, yeah, whatever. And I remember I was sitting out there in the middle of Afghanistan, sunbaking, no shirt, gun was somewhere else, and all of a sudden, the ground starts exploding in our position, and I'm scrambling to find my stuff. That's called threat fatigue, and that is what China is doing, and that's what Russia is doing. So does this mean that Russia's making a move on southern Ukraine now? They're going to do a big naval assault there? Does it mean they're moving somewhere else? We don't know. But what they are doing is starting to maneuver like this, and they are watching. They are watching what NATO does, because they want to know how they're going to react. But interesting movements there anyway. So I'll be keeping my eye on this part of the world. At the end of the day, as I always say, it's always marching in the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. It's heading more and more towards war, and where we should be seeking peace. Russian subs that cannot be found is a pretty terrifying thought to me, because Russian subs can deploy nuclear weapons at the end of the day. So not a good scenario. All right, that's it for today, gang. Going to keep it short and sweet. We're at about half an hour. As always, if you've got any questions, please feel free to shoot them through to me. I don't know what the world is doing where you are, but where I am, the sun is shining. My plants are growing, and I would encourage all of you to push towards doing that as well. Grow your own food, secure your own food supply, store your own food as much as possible. Like I said, food getting locked up in New York grocery stores at the moment. These are just all little signs. These are all just data points, and that's what this whole podcast or whatever you call this thing is all about. Is just putting this information out there so we can continually get it, and we're going, okay, yes, we're connecting the dots. We're connecting the dots. We see what's actually happening here, and we can get a feel of which way the wind is blowing. And unfortunately, right now in the world, the wind is blowing into food scarcity. That's probably one of my biggest concerns. Not that I'm overly worried about it, because like I said, I've got resilience within my food supply. I've got definitely food stored up for months. I've got the ability to grow food, and not only just the ability, but I'm actually doing it, and going to push further into growing more food. So that's one thing that I really try and encourage people to do, to think about, to start working on in your life. Kira Leaf said, would love some ideas about the kind of food to stash as well as grow easily. There is a number, there's a huge amount of this sort of information if you just look it up on YouTube. There's a whole heap of prep channels that go into this, but my personal experience with this, the things that I've found personally easiest to grow, corn, beans, pumpkin squash type things, tomatoes. They're the easiest food crop growing things for tending. For not tending, definitely potatoes. Potatoes I couldn't recommend highly enough. Literally, I've just found potatoes, you just chuck them in the ground, you forget about it, and you're like, what's this green stuff coming out here? Oh yeah, potatoes. And they just keep going as well. You got to be wary of it, because they'll just continue forever, pretty much. And then really, I really dig on real resilient plants. So things like nasturtium, rocket, your more hardy leafy greens, brassicas, stuff like that. Can't go wrong with them. They self-seed as well. Right now, there's probably 6 nasturtium plants that have come up and are doing really well, and I reckon at least half a dozen also rocket plants that I never plant. I planted some rocket ages ago, but I never planted these ones, and they literally someone coming up between bricks, between pavers. I'm like, cool, that can grow. So concentrate on that sort of stuff. I think they're probably the easiest. But if you haven't started before, I guess sort of started with herbs in pots, and that's a good learning curve, because some herbs are really, really hard to grow. really fickle. So it's a good learning curve. All right, gang, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Stay safe out there as always. Keep prepping, and until next time, Semper Paratus.